Yo, what's good? Welcome to another episode of Fun with Dumb. I am dumb, short for dumbfounded. But I'm here joined by a guest, a friend of a long time. Rarely get to see this guy.
It's been a while.
It's been years, actually, at this point.
Don't say that. Say it ain't so.
Yeah, no, I would see you like every couple of years at an event. Sometimes like a lot of Asian American events,
Poetry events.
And you're just an OG all around. I think in a lot of entertainment aspects. This is Dante Basco. Make some noise right now, y'all.
What's up, you guys? I'm in the house. Good to see Dumb. Damn, I guess we've been busy.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, this is crazy because it's not just an episode of podcast. It's kind of catching up. Like literally, you just walked in the door.
Right, right. No, totally. And we's already kind of pre-catching up.
Yeah, and just to intro for cats who may not be familiar, Dante Basco is an actor, voiceover actor as well, a writer. You told me you were doing some producing films. You might have seen him as a child actor in the movie Hook as Rufio, one of the illest characters ever in movies.
Hey man, respect.
Yeah, a Fresh Prince of Bel-Air,
yes.
Hanging with Mr. Cooper. A lot of shows I really grew up on.
Right.
And while you were growing up on the actual,
we was on some hood Asian stuff. You know.
You know what? Actually, that's funny you bring that up. You are the original hood Asian dude.
For film and television, we've been in the hood for years.
I think,
but like coming to America and people being like, "Damn, it's like y'all really do like that in the hood." I'm like, yeah, that's how we grew up.
Well, it's an interesting situation because I talk about how even when I would see Asian Americans on television and film back in the day, like that doesn't necessarily mean I could relate to them,
right?
You know, because
right.
I think early on there was a version of Asian Americans like on television and film.
Right.
You were like one of the few dudes that I actually did relate to because I was like, I'm growing up in hip hop culture.
Right.
Around my neighborhood with friends, black friends, Latinos, and you like were the neighborhood Asian kid on these shows.
I know. I mean, it's weird to think back now and look back, and it's like one of those things where a lot of folks, Asian or not, would be like a certain generation that like 90s babies that grew up are like, yo, you were just the first cool Asian I ever saw in pop culture.
That's
period.
Ill.
And you're like, whoa.
And that's crazy because at that how did you just monopolize that role?
You know what it is? I think when I came into Hollywood, it was just a lane that was open. And you know, when you act, you know, you're around Hollywood and basically you either like gonna try to be what people want you to be or you're just gonna be you. And they're gonna see that and either they're gonna cast that or not. And by the fortunes of whatever, you know, the Hollywood fortunes, it's like a lot of people got me, and just I worked a lot through the 90s and kind of was able to give a different flavor for what Asian.
When did you start? Like what age?
85, man. I got 85. To LA in 85. I mean, I'm because of Spielberg and Hook, I'll always be like, people would be like, discovered by Steven Spielberg kind of thing, but that was like 91.
Was that your first role? Or?
No, I started acting when I was 10 in 85, right? So I was like, I came into town as a b-boy.
Damn.
Straight up, like, I mean, now
you were breakdancing around that time.
Yeah, from the golden era hip hop. Like, we started, me and my brothers who are all actors and producers and writers today. We started as b-boys in the streets of San Francisco. Like, so when I talk now and I'm hanging out with a lot of friends, whether they be musicians, rappers, whatnot, it's like, I'm a hip hop artist. I'm still a hip hop artist.
Of course. Yeah.
It's like, this is the maturation of hip hop. You know what I'm saying?
That's the thing. I don't think a lot of cats would even, they know like when they see you depicted in the movie or TV, but you're part of the culture.
Yeah. And I had a whole long conversation with a producer at NBC about Jay-Z's last album, about, this is hip hop grown up. This is 40-something hip hop. It ain't for everybody. It ain't gonna be the biggest hits on the chart. But he's talking to some of us that grew up in the culture, and we're not just rap. We're not just, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're just graph. We're not just DJs. It's all a part of us. But this is the maturation of the hip hop generation.
For sure. I mean, when you were growing up as like a b-boy and in the hip hop culture, say you would go to an audition, right? Like, how did they pick up on that lane being open? Was it just the way you presented yourself? Like,
yeah. See, this is the thing. When I was coming up, and even now, a lot of Asian artists know that to work in the industry, you have to straight up beat out white kids for white roles and black kids for black roles, because there's no one writing Asian roles. Right. So there's just a whole era of my life that it was just final callbacks and was like, we're either gonna go the way we wrote it or we're gonna go with Dante. and then you just got to beat them. And then it's back to my b-boy roots, was straight up battle. You know what I'm saying? We're like, you're in the final audition, let's battle, go kill it. Now the lane's opening up. Even the Asian roles I went out for, I wasn't the Asian they were looking for.
Right.
Like I walk in the room, they're like,
Right.
what kind of Asian are you?
And you're like talking the way you're around with your friends, like at these auditions.
Totally. And I have a lot of friends that grew up in that era that was really, like John Cho's like awesome. It was great. And a lot of things against John Cho Cohen. And John's amazing. But it was like, that's one lane of Asian America. This is another lane of Asian America. It was always, there's more of a straighter lane, and there was like the urban lane, and I was
I was always surprised how like there wasn't so many urban voices from like the Asian community in movies and stuff. You know, like you're like one of them.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, it wasn't our thing, right? We're like really kind of a nose to the grindstone, kind of like keep it under the radar. That's what Asian culture is,
right?
And hip hop is flamboyant, and you know what I'm saying. Like that's not our first thing.
That's true. A lot of Asians, like even when they get involved in one of the elements of hip hop, it's like DJing, right? It's kind of more low key, behind the scenes, like.
But they've been around, like Filipino DJs. I'm from the Bay, so Filipino DJs have been.
Yeah, that's the OG place for the Filipino DJs.
Scratch Pickles, shout out,
of course,
Qbert, the whole. Yep. And then when I got to LA, all the DJs in LA, the Legend Crew, like Beat Junkies, Icy Ice, E-Man, like the dudes that we grew up with, like. Going to their parties, we were around the scene forever, and of course the b-boy scene, Filipinos have been killing in the Bay and Cali like forever, like some of the best b-boys ever in the world.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I'm surprised, like with your whole fast song, you didn't get into like MCing, but I guess you did because you went to spoken word.
Yeah. I mean, me and my brothers had a band for years in the '90s, and we're live hip hop. It was like before Limp Bizkit and all that stuff dropped.
Oh shit! Okay.
So it was like
some
early
fusion,
roots stuff, like live band hip hop, but. It's before the internet, so we'd sell out mad shows. There's so many people kind of like Comic-Cons and stuff, like got like old albums of us. We still got like old EP on Spotify right now. But it was like we were selling out shows at the Roxy and Troubadour all around LA.
Yeah. And
we played colleges, but it was, it was before the internet hit and you couldn't really capitalize on it, and it was still a big segregation between like acting and music. Like those days was like really, really hard to cross the boundary.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, but I still love music and I still love poetry. I still write. I don't know if I could say this yet, but I got a track dropping soon.
Oh, really?
Like I just did a poem on a track, but it's super ill. When is this coming out?
It's probably like in 3-4 weeks.
Okay, yeah, so I could probably talk about it. It'll be out by then.
No, it's crazy because I've actually noticed a lot of spoken word artists going into more like just making rap songs. Yeah. It's been like a wave. You know about the Poetry Lounge. And yeah, of course.
And so for people out there that don't know, I started this venue called DPL, the Poetry Lounge, which is originally Dante's Poetry Lounge, which started in my living room over 20 years ago. And my partner Shiham was on my couch, and we would start throwing this venue. Like we wandered into me and Shiham met at a poetry venue, Ronnie's Backstreet Poetry, and became fast friends and was around the whole scene. And that became the biggest, now weekly open mic in the world. It was, which is crazy. It was even like a recruiting ground for Def Jam poetry. Yeah, it was an inspiration for Def Jam. Yeah, pretty much. It became Def Jam. Poetry. I mean, it's literally what the inspiration for what the scene is, damn near, right? That came about because I was working with Stan Lathan on Steve Harvey's show. And every time I see Stan on auditions, he was like, drop a new poem on me, right? And I would do poems for him. I was doing poems for Steve Harvey and all them on the set. And I invited the whole cast to come out to my lounge on Tuesdays. And then Stan finally came after like years, years of like just invite, because I invite everybody. And then he just came like month after month after month and started developing what became Def Poetry. It's so crazy because like I think that was I remember, I've gone to the Poetry Lounge when I was young. You old DPL fam for sure. But I'm from like Project Blow, Los Angeles. And, Project Blow. People know about Project Blow. Yeah, it's just like, these are just establishments in Los Angeles. Thursday nights, Leimert Park. Yep. Super intimidating. I mean, the Poetry Lounge too, really. The Poetry Lounge, yeah. But we came from like a real love space. Like even today, like easy even bad poets get on the mic. It doesn't matter. It's all love. Right. Project Blow. For you gotta know people that they're a little bit more mean. They're mean, but so Project Blow Up for people, they know because they follow you, right? Or do you got to talk about Project Blow Up?
I mean, kids might know, but it's like
dog. It's a legendary. These are like legendary spots,
yeah,
right?
The Poetry Lounge
AC
and Project
Alone,
Blow Up, definitely.
Mike and I, the whole Freestyle Fellowship.
Of course.
This is like '90s gods.
Of course, they're like my grandparents
dog,
when it comes
AC
to hip
Alone.
hop. Yeah.
Come on, dude. Like
it's like a meaner version of like the Poetry Lounge.
I was talking to AC one time. I met him at just around the scene. We was
Yeah.
talking at a bar one night, and I was like, especially in those, probably like 10 years ago now.
Right.
And I was like, you and Dale, probably the illest Cali rap, like just rap lyricists.
Oh yeah, they're some of my influences for
like
sure.
just breaking down rhythms and the flow. It just opened all of our minds
For sure.
I mean, Project Blow was kind of scary, not just because of
There's a big
artistry.
battle area of it,
The battle was crazy,
Yeah.
but there was a lot of disciples, AC Alone disciples, a lot of
Yeah.
cats on AC's flow.
Right.
And like, you know what I'm saying? The other members of the crew had their own style, but there's a lot of youngins that's trying to like still cop the voice. Same thing in the lounge too, people trying to cop other people's voices.
Right. I mean, it was one of the places that just growing up on radio stuff, when I went to Project Blow, it kind of opened my mind and blew my mind a little bit to hearing
Talking
the
about
different
Project Blizzard is
not what's the code Project Blow? But it was crazy to hear like such weirdo shit to like gangster shit, and or things that get mixed
that
in.
was because what neighborhood you grew up in?
Koreatown.
Yeah. So I grew up in Paramount, out here. So we was from the hood, and so like this NWA, you know what I'm saying? This is
Right.
like all that was around DJ Quick, all that was around us and super dope. But then all of a sudden, Project Blow, Far Side,
Yeah.
Cypress, like
Yeah.
different things were coming at us from different angles,
true.
and really
Yeah.
LA hip hop scene was
I mean, what's crazy?
different. 90s.
Honestly, man, that's one thing I've always had such a huge respect for you is because besides all your like acting accolades, is like the Poetry Lounge has been one thing that I'm like, yo, it's so crazy. Like you're like an OG who created the Poetry Lounge.
That's
that was a
crazy.
spot I would go to impress girls, bro.
Oh,
like
me too.
I would take every no, it was like every time I meet like a new girl, I'm like, yo, let me take you to this place called the Poetry Lounge, and they would be
Get down.
blown away.
We
like,
would just, and I would. It was the dating scene was crazy because I was dating a lot of girls out of the lounge.
yeah.
It was just you would do like all these girls would do poems like to you. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? But I'm like the host, like especially when it was like Dante's
You
Poetry
must have
Lounge.
been killing the game then. Yeah.
I would do one poem and then it was like for all of them.
Yo, that's
But it was
so...
great. But it's inspiration, nothing more than inspiration than
I'd take these girls to the Poetry Lounge and would leave, and they'll be
so
like,
many
"You're
girls,
so
so
woke.
much inspiration.
He's so woke." Like,
Yeah.
Yo, it's just like it's because there was so many amazing poets that
And
like
there's still so many amazing poets. It's great to see the generations of poets and voices that have come through the lounge. Me and Shion actually did a TED Talk like 2 years ago now. about the
yeah,
lounge.
as you guys should.
And we
man.
did it in verse. It was
Oh,
crazy.
that's amazing.
It's somewhere online.
Are you still pretty involved with the Poetry Lounge? or-
Yeah, definitely always involved. Kind of like the Phantom of the Lounge. I kind of pop in and out. If I'm working on something new, a new piece, I'll go through there. But I'm trying to kind of push the movement forward and push the whole poetry scene forward.
Right.
The next steps of, again, like the maturation of us. Like, what are we doing now?
What is? I mean, would you say like? I mean, I've seen it pop up in so much in mainstream culture too. Over the years, but now it's like you got Hamilton, right?
Yes.
That's an element of that, right?
Super dope.
Yeah.
All that, there's things like that where plays that we're all been writing plays. I wrote a play called Midnight Makeout Session. It's all the monologues or verses and just spoken word pieces. Shihan has a play coming out right now. And then from that to now we're pitching TV shows.
Wow.
And it's about explaining to the poets, like really opening your minds. Like we're poets and poetry is dope, right? But poets are writers. This town is built on writers. We're storytellers. You talk to a script writer, a screenplay writer, a playwright, a novelist, and say, "What's your best stuff you wrote?" And they're like, the best stuff they would describe as poetry, and that's what we write all the time. So expand your writing, tell these stories, and let's bring it to commerce.
Because it's seen so many waves, like poetry coming into mainstream culture to like losing a little popularity, coming back in, but it's like kind of stronger than ever if you look at it. Like even Blind Spotting, right?
Blind Spotting
that has poets in
Rafa,
it, right?
David killing it. NQ's doing crazy.
Yep.
I really want the scene to. I love the stand up comedy scene and what stand up comedy is doing and has been doing. I'm trying to take notes from that and the improv scene and trying to elevate the poetry scene where like the biggest stand up comics get sell at the Staples Center.
Right.
Like, we need to get to that level.
Yeah, I'm just wondering why can't that
it's
happen
it's
yet?
just a change of mind, change of pace, and trying to educate the audience and even educate the poets on how they do their sets. It's like, look at the stand-up comedians and let's do our sets. So we have to almost celebritize ourselves in a way.
Right.
And a celebrity is kind of anti in the poetry scene. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I see.
It's not about celebrity.
I
It's
didn't
not
think about that. Yeah.
And I'm like, no, we kind of have to do that. We kind of have to have awards. Like, what's the best poem of the year? Who's the best poet of the year? Because once we create the hype within the scene in a real direct way, and we really will just kind of like herd the audience into understanding, like, the crazy thing about the Poetry Lounge, I say, is like, I think the Poetry Lounge and New York Cafe are probably the two biggest venues in America, right? But you'll be on the same mic with like Saul Williams or Sheehan or NQ and be like, your first poem, like, well, we're the same. You're not the same.
Right.
Just because you're on the same mic, on the same stage, don't mean you're the same. It's
right.
about trying to create just a hierarchy in a way.
And maybe,
you know what I'm saying?
it's been
and not
a
a
little
bad
bit
way.
too open, like it's just a platform for everyone.
Yeah, and it's
Like,
almost anti the scene, and it's very delicate. We all got love for the scene, so it's trying to do it in a very respectful way and trying to strategize it where we can really create a hierarchy, not just for like ego. It's really for commerce and really get the recognized poets the real shine and the fame. It's like, why is the poet laureate of the country not one of the most popular poets in the poetry scene? Like,
right,
you know what I'm saying?
right.
I don't know what they don't speak to us. These cats are speaking to people on a really, just guttural level and really speaking the words for the people.
I think it's that level of like, you see the poets when they're out every week and playing the same as up and coming comics too. It's just the way like the celebrity comics go and play the comedy clubs, right? But it's like they haven't done the other end of it.
Right.
It's like built this whole
but who's headlining? How's the headline? And what's the headline going to lead to what? And then how do we create that headlining scene into who creates? How come we need to create an HBO hour special for the poet? But how do we know what poet deserves that? You know what I'm saying? And so it's about creating the scene. And again, I know hierarchy sounds like a bad word within the poetry scene, but we do have to create that kind of system. And that's what I'm about trying to help generate right now.
For sure. So when you say you started in the living room, like what?
Like my actual living room.
When was this?
I don't know, 94, 95.
And what like you just wanted to have a space where like?
No, we started doing poetry, and then it's all crazy. So we started doing poetry at Ronnie's Backstreet Poetry, and then these two girls, Fly Mommies, like these two Puerto Rican girls, were throwing a club on Melrose, right? With Chris Spencer was hosting, and they brought me in like at midnight or 11 o'clock to do poetry, but I would bring a guest and they would just put me on the flyer like Dante, and I was like, Dante's Poetry Lounge, right? Because it's not gonna be me by myself.
Right.
And then people were like really digging that, and then I went to another place called Blase Blah, and then the little half-hour poetry section was over, like mad people were coming for the poetry more than the club.
Yeah.
They're like, damn, they just here for the poems. And then we just started doing it in my living room, and then the living room got crazy. Like,
so it was like automatically you knew something was there, like from the jump.
And then I brought, then every place we went to, we sell out theater after theater, and I couldn't do it because I'm acting, and I would cancel it, and people would be showing up when there's no poetry lounge. Then I got Sheehan involved, my friends and the founders of the Poetry Lounge, Sheehan Poetry, Brother Jamel, and brought them in, and I was like, let me just take my name off it. And they're like, no. And then we already had flyers that said Dante's Poetry, and I took the NTE off.
That's crazy.
And it was just the Poetry Lounge. I was like, that's it. We're just going to keep, it's already DPL, Dante's Poetry, and I'm just keep it DPL, and we kept rolling.
You know, it's an interesting story. Like when I first started rapping, some of my biggest mentors at like age 14 was like some poets like Brother Jamel and Gnu as well.
Yeah, Gnu.
Those two were actually, they've known me since I first started rapping.
Orlando Park, Gnu, I've known Gnu. He started coming to the Poetry Lounge because we were taking a class together at SMC, a drawing class.
Yeah.
Drinking
UPS, that was like his crew, I think. Yeah.
Yes. And I love Gnu, man. I got mad love for Gnu.
It's just crazy. Those were some of my like early on hip hop mentors.
It's crazy how the LA scene, we all intertwined in some crazy way.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, man. I think, I don't know, you were doing both, like acting and that?
Acting, poetry, I was doing my band. I stay creative.
Stayed expressing yourself.
I mean, we're still doing it. People like, I'm 30 plus years in the game now, and people like, how do you keep going? How do you keep surviving? And it's like, stay creative. Like,
yeah, because I mean, with acting, it's like that's one thing, and there's a lot of downtime with that.
Hella downtime
in between gigs.
And you don't have a lot of control over. You ain't writing the roles. You just wait. The crazy thing
sometimes it feels like a job, right?
Yeah, people always go, "It's lucky." I'm like, it's not luck. Like getting good's not lucky.
Yeah,
that's on you. Like I was in conservatory. Me and my brothers and my sister were studied for 20 years.
Yeah,
and so I'll put them up against anybody acting wise. But the luck is that you're lucky that someone up to a year ago or so wrote some role that happens to be right for you at this age range, that you happen to beat out 50, 100 other people, and when it finally comes out, someone gives a shit about it.
Well, also,
that's all the luck.
Also, it's really when preparation, opportunity meet. That's success, right?
Totally.
Yeah. So like you can get all the ill roles, but if you're not ready for it, it's not gonna.
Someone has to write an ill role, and it's not you. You're just waiting for someone. You hope that someone writes an ill role,
right,
that fits you at this age in your life right now.
Did you see that as for a role like Rufio? Like, did you feel like this is like a fire role at the age? You know what I mean?
You knew it was fire just because it's Spielberg. And it's like Robin Williams and all these dudes.
So at that point, you already knew like the caliber of these dudes.
Not really, because
you're still young, right? How old were you?
I was 15, but I've been studying since I was 10, so I was like super serious.
So you're in it, like you're into all that
Dustin
shit.
Hoffman is a god to me.
Wow.
And so and Robin Williams. Like, matter of fact, it's all works. This is how it all works. Like even Robin Williams. So I love Robin Williams from like Mork and Mindy and everything, right? But my favorite film was Dead Poets Society.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
That's why I started writing poetry.
Yeah.
Dead Poets Society, right? So we would talk every day on the set about poetry.
I never even thought about that correlation between Dead Poets Society and.
It was such support of me writing poetry. I'd talk to him about poems. I'm writing poems. He would tell me about his favorite poets. I'm reading poets, and I'm telling him about my thing. And so even a part of me starting the Poetry Lounge was like part of support from Robin Williams.
That's so crazy.
How crazy is that?
That's so, and then even like the fantasy world you're in, I guess like all the kids they're just kind of being themselves, right?
Yeah, I mean, we talk. This is like post Crazy Rich Asians time right now.
Right.
So it seemed like
we'll get to the Crazy Rich Asians. This is the pre.
The world after is all that, but you talk about representation and stuff, and people talk about Rufio, and it's like this iconic character in American pop culture or world pop culture now, right? And I'm always like, the illest thing about that now, as an adult looking back at it now, is like Peter Pan is. He's not. It's not even like a franchise. It's not even like. I mean, I'm a big Star Wars fan. All this kind of stuff. I've been involved in a few franchises now. It's even beyond that. It's a fairy tale. It's been around since before any of us know anything. It's gonna be around after we're all gone. And all of a sudden, in 1991, this little Filipino character jumps out in this thing, and now people are like at Disneyland or dressing up as Peter Pan and the Crocodile and Captain Hook and Tinkerbell, and someone's
Peter Pan reinvented.
And then all of a sudden there's like this little Rufio is forever a part of this fairy tale, and that's like you've thrusted an Asian American character in a fairy tale will forever be a part of that. It's really crazy.
I'm curious, like what that must have been. I mean, I was a kid. I was like, so when that movie came out, I was like 5, right?
Right.
And it was just like. Did you feel any kind of like the climate like differently? I mean, did you see any Asian kids coming? I feel like just because you might see an Asian person doesn't mean necessarily like the whole thing changes, right?
No, I mean it changed for me personally just because I've been in Hollywood now for like 5 years or so and just kind of coming up. But when you're on, you have that you have the entree of Spielberg, and you have the entree of like the biggest film in Hollywood that you're in, and you're a standout character in that film. All of a sudden, you just have a different entry into Hollywood, you know? And then my generation of young Hollywood, you're just running around in the scene, and you're part of like the Leo DiCaprios and I don't know, all those kids from that era, like that we grew up together, television and film and partying together. So it definitely changed my life. You don't see the ripples of things until later. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. You know what's so great about that role too? Like, just thinking back, obviously I love the character. I love the fact you were Asian, but I didn't even really think about that aspect of you being Asian. Now that I think about it, I'm like, you were just like a cool character, but obviously you were Asian, clearly. You see it, but it's like, damn, like that's how good the character was. Like that shit didn't really imprint in my mind. Like everyone's talking about Asians in Hollywood, right? It just like that wasn't even like
it wasn't even a conversation piece,
right?
But what happens later on is all these kids, we were kids, now they're like grown-ups, right?
And now we get it in the significance.
Yeah,
of it.
so like mad girls would be like, you're the first Asian dude, you're the first person I had a crush on ever.
Right.
And like that influences their outlook on Asian men for the rest of their lives.
Right.
Or like I get stopped by interracial couples all the time, Asian dude like, yo man, my girl had the biggest crush on you growing up, and I know for a fact you were one of the reasons why she married me. For sure, 1,000%. And you're like, that shit is like the little stuff that art influences that we never, it's not our main point of creating art, but that's the ripples that
and that's
somehow,
the thing. What back then it was like, oh, that guy is cool. Like he's just a cool guy. Like he's not like a cool Asian yet.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because kids don't have conversations about like, just the cultural impact of things. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like that's a conversation we had later. Like later, me or Tim or whoever, and we're talking. We're like, oh yeah, like the Asian dude for hanging with Mr. Cooper, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Right.
But like growing up on it, we never even really thought about that.
That's the magic. I mean, actually, a white director told me years ago when I was way younger. He was like, he goes, if you were black or white, you'd have a whole nother career. He was like, if you were black or white, your career, just as the caliber of actor he thought I was, and what I was doing, and I still got a lot of love and respect.
What did he mean by that? He
just meant the amount of roles that are available for you.
True.
You just don't have any roles available for you to play. And he goes, but this thing is, you could do a lot for your community. And I go, why? He goes, because when you come in, you work a lot because we see you before we see your race. Like we see Dante. Right? We don't see like an Asian kid, We're like, we see all these things that are Dante, and then you just happen to be Asian.
Right.
And I go, wow, like I never thought about it that way. But that's how we see our friends and our family. Like we don't really see our friends and family as Asian people.
Right.
And it's like, that's a 10th, 11th, 12th adjective. When you're hanging out with the friends and like your friend's adjective is like, you're my Asian friend, like that's a fucked up friendship. Like that's the first adjective that comes to you. You know what I'm saying? You
know what's interesting about...
And you never see white people be like, that's my white friend Joe.
Yeah,
like, nah, dog, that's just fucking Joe.
That's so true.
Not that smart.
I even talk about like... Yeah, and that's like a fucked up thing. Like I remember like if I go to a party and there's mad Asian people and someone's like, there's mad Asian people here. But that don't happen at like a party with like mad white people.
No, because this is how Hollywood is. And I try to break it down to people. It's like there's things that come out every day in breakdowns. And they're called breakdowns, how you get a job. And it's a description of all the characters that are being casted every day, right? And so, of course, if it's ethnic, they'll be like the Asian dude, 25, middle bit, whatever. The black dude, tall, whatever, right? If it's just like Johnny, 25, works at the supermarket, it's white. They don't gotta say it's white. Johnny's a 25-year-old white dude, but they're not saying white. You know what I'm saying? It's so funny, like, but that's just it's a culture that we grew up in. I think things are changing, but that's just how it's been.
You know what's so interesting? Like, you made a good point. Like, your career has been, I think, very rewarding in a sense. You've got to represent so much, but ironically, like, your biggest role had nothing to do with you being Asian in a sense, you know? That's the most ironic, like, funny thing about it, right?
I think they originally casted a white dude, I heard. And then I came in and then they recasted him.
White Rufio? That would have been a whole nother Rufio right there.
And I know the kid, I don't remember his name, but I remember him around the scene a lot when we were younger. It's so crazy.
Do you know any history behind the name Rufio? Like, how did that come about? Because that's a fire-ass name. But
yeah, I don't know, but a lot of... I'm friends with the writer and the son who came up with the name. His son, who's also a writer now, Jim V. Hart wrote the movie, and his son, Jake Hart, who's a writer now, actually came up with the name.
Such a fire name, bro. Yeah. That's so crazy.
I know, and now there's kids named Rufio. Like, I meet parents and their kids are named Rufio.
I don't know any, like,
it's crazy.
Any historical other Rufios. Like, was that based off of any other Rufio?
I don't know.
There's no other Rufio. Come on.
I think it was I thought it was based on Rufus, and then it became Rufio. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, now, like, Hollywood has changed. Just recently in the last, like, month or two has been crazy in the Asian American community. Like, I can't go anywhere without having like, every Asian conversation right now is about crazy rich Asians.
Yes.
And it's just, I mean, why do you think now, like, just obviously it's been 25 years since like an all Asian cast, but is that really specifically a thing, or is it all around climate of everything?
I think the climate, it's our time in a lot of ways. It's been building up to this. I mean, we've been around LA, we've been around the Asian scene for a long time, and we've been all kind of pushing and talking about this for a while, but it's just our time, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which is important, but also there's a lot of potholes in the past for other groups, and we got to learn from that and kind of keep creating. It's just been, this Cape has been around a long time. I started a group 4 years ago called We on the 8th about Asian media, celebrating Asian media the 8th of every month, and the conversations about Asian media has been going on. I think Crazy Rich Asians is kind of like the epitome of what could be possible.
I think it's because there's also a lot of follow-up projects that have a lot of Asians in it.
Yeah.
I just noticed that. Like,
I mean, we it's bound to happen because at the end of the day, we've been here for a long time.
Right.
And our voices we've been invisible for a long time.
Yeah.
But I think with the new generation, now you're getting to a lot of second, third generation people coming of age.
Right.
It's just time that our voices, we don't really swing the way our parents or our grandparents swung about just come to America and just keep your head down and just do good and make money. And we did.
Right.
And we became an affluent community. But now the second, third generation is like, no, we're not just keeping our nose down. We actually want our stories to be told. And,
right.
And that's what's happening collectively.
When do you think, like, in your career or you as just a person, like, started getting passionate about the Asian American movement in a sense?
It came out recently. It came out, not recently, I'd say within the last 10 years. I mean, 8 years ago, I co-founded a company out of Hawaii, Kinetic Films. They are big. My partner out there, James Serino, has like the biggest local commercial house in Hawaii. SC grad. He wanted to do a film with me, and we ended up creating a whole film wing of his company, Kinetic Films, and that is purely dedicated to Asian American Pacific Islander films. We started doing that like 8 years ago. We did like 3 films with Kev Jumba, Justin Chan, myself, and other local Hawaiian artists, and we were able to, we're still making films. We were able to sell our first 3, like 2 to Mar Vista, 1 to Lakeshore, and so that really started kind of, you grow up in this industry and you start, and I love the career I've had. I feel very fortunate. The magic, I tour around these days doing keynotes at colleges and other events.
Sick. Yeah.
And it's, part of me is like, when colleges first had me come and speak, I'm like, I didn't even go to college. Like,
right.
What the hell?
Same here, and I feel like honored.
Like, I'm honored and great. All the UCs, and I've spoken like Princeton and Brown and places I wouldn't even be able to get into. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. I've been there.
Yeah,
too.
You're like, what? But the thing about it is, Hollywood's arguably one of the hardest industries in the world. Yet I've been able to survive for over 30 years, over 3 decades, right? And I'm Asian,
right?
With no roles. It's like, how can you feast in a famine situation? It's impossible. Like, statistically, I'm an anomaly. You're like that
for sure. No, 100%.
But then I can speak on that as an Asian American artist, but also, I mean, just that amount of time in Hollywood alone, white, black, or other. It's like, you're not gonna be. You talk to kids now. I mean, there's a part of me that's like, this is the deal. You're not gonna make it. Like, come to Hollywood, but you're not gonna make it.
Yeah, I mean, statistically, it's like true. It's hard. It's not.
But you might. But if you work hard enough, you're gonna make it.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's that conversation. It's like you feel like you're the doctor or lawyer at school going, look to the left or right of you, like they're not gonna be doctors or lawyers.
You've got a chance to not only be an Asian dude, Asian actor in Hollywood, but you got to play Asian animated characters. Yeah, which is kind of fire too. It
was crazy. And what's other thing is because I'm Filipino, because we're Asian and Latino. Like, half of my roles are like Latino. Like, the Latino seems like this dude's playing Mexican, Puerto Rican.
Right. Okay. So I mean, Crazy Rich Asians. Going back to that.
Yes.
How did you feel about it when it came out?
Man, shout out to the whole crew. I'm so proud of everybody. John Chu's a good friend of mine. Chris Pang's a good friend of mine. I hung out with Aqua a few times. Shout out to Aqua, Jimmy O Yang. So there's a lot of friends personally I know that I'm very proud of. And just, I've been kind of tracking the whole project for a while. I was hanging out a lot with John, the director.
Did you think it was going to have the big, cultural
I was hoping,
impact?
We all were hoping.
Yeah.
And I had a feeling it would. I mean, the name alone, Crazy Rich, it was the right time, like the right book and John's the right dude at the right time to do this. The kudos to it being this success has been like the first 2 weeks, opening weekend, and the second weekend, #1 in the country.
That's what I'm saying. It's crazy.
And no marquee star. I mean, Michelle Yeoh is awesome.
Yeah.
Constance is a cool TV star, but not like, I'm talking like marquee.
Right.
Will Smith
For sure.
somebody crazy where we're like, yeah, that we all know that dude, right?
Right.
No marquee box office star.
Yeah, and like not even the biggest Asian star in it, right?
Not even like the biggest Asian star, right?
Exactly.
So it just goes to show you that we've been hungry, we've been thirsty for it, you know.
Right.
But we've been on that track. I started on the track because I started following the whole YouTube scene.
Yeah.
The YouTube scene really opened my whole brain up. Is what happened when we started doing the film. We were starting to do these movies. I met Kev Jumba and AJ Raphael, right? And this is like almost 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago.
We called that Asian Hollywood, like when that was happening, the whole YouTube
the
craze.
Early YouTube craze. And so these dudes put me on. First, they put me on the internet, right? Because I was like,
you were the old head like that.
yeah, I'm like in my 30s at that time, and I'm like, they're like, you got to get on the internet. And I'm like, I'm looking at Kev and Age. We're at a bar. Kev he's not even old enough to be in the bar. Like, we just got him in the bar. And they're like, I'm not on the internet. That's y'all. And then they looked at me like, Google yourself. You're on the internet. Like, if you don't control the conversation, then someone else, there's already 10 people saying that you already. And I was like, what? And so they are the ones that got me on. I did the first film we produced, Hang Loose with Kevin and Justin Sean. And so I always credit Kevin, AJ with all my like social media life. But what they taught me, especially at that time, is, a very large portion of the top YouTubers were Asian Americans. I mean, Ryan Higa, Kev Jumba, AJ Raphael, tons of singers, and they were explaining to me like, we don't have enough representation in pop culture media, so all of our fans are Wong Fu killing it in YouTube. Right. And that's why I knew like we're about to blow on pop culture, because
so you think that was the precursor? Like
I know it was a precursor, and their fans, as much as there's a gang of Asian fans, all their fans aren't Asian.
Right. Yeah.
The world's changed. It's like
it was like the introduction to Asian people, Asian youth. I think,
dude,
like
they was killing it
to everybody else, right?
And it was not just Asian youth; it was real Asian youth. It wasn't Hollywood produced Asian youth.
Right.
A lot of my Hollywood friends are like looking at these YouTubers early days, especially like they're just doing shit. I don't get what they're doing, And I'm like, they don't have the quality of the cameras and the lighting and all this stuff, but they're the quality. Dude, the ones that are successful, no one's writing an Asian character like that. That's a real Asian American guy right now.
I think that was a good introduction to what the Asian identity is in America.
Right.
That was like really important to see, like who are Asian kids, right? Like what are they like?
Real, real Asian kids. Yeah, Tim Delgado. But a spectrum of Hollywood's not writing these characters.
But you know what's interesting, and I think what you just said is a good point. Like, you got to know the real Asian kid, right?
Right.
And I think that was important because if you went to school, there was like a lot of Asian kids weren't as outgoing. They were like a little bit more timid. So like, but when they did these YouTube videos, they got to kind of do it in bedrooms and whatever way they kind of really full on express themselves.
And there was a spectrum of them. Like, I think Kev was a little more kind of that kind.
Introverted.
Kev was a little more introverted like that, and I think YouTube was his outlet. Tim was extroverted and was a total different realm.
He was like a prom king at a school.
Ryan was real funny and was doing sketch. Like, it wasn't one.
It's true.
It was a gang of them. So you see the spectrum of people. We just regular people doing all kinds of stuff, but you haven't been able to see real three-dimensional Asian characters in pop culture because no one. The reality is, where I always say we have to write our own stuff and we have to create our own systems and our own kind of production companies and networks, because, like it or not, Hollywood's run by white people, right? And so a lot of the experience and what they're doing is, I always tell people, the reason why we got to do this is because 90%, 99% of Asian roles you've seen in your lifetime, roles I've played and seen, have been the experience of a white man. It's experience of you, and there's not that's all made up. There's truth in it because they're artists and they're experiencing the world, but they don't know you like you know you. They're just writing from their experience of their observations of us and our culture. When in this new media, this new Asian media, it has to be us observing ourselves. You know what I'm saying? It's our experiences of ourselves, not usually a white male's observation or experience of us. And so that's the new Asian media.
And we got to, take the lead from the black community. They did just that as well. They literally put out films that was just all black writers, producers, actors.
I think we look at the black community, the African American community, and it's very important, and we got to draw a lot of parallels and see the good things and the bad things that happen. The Latino community, what I always say right now is we're hot, right? But I'm old enough to know that I'm old enough to have gone through the Latino explosion in the 90s.
Right.
And there is going to be a J-Lo. There is going to be a Mark Anthony, Ricky Martin, but the George Lopez show is going to get canceled.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If we don't create our own systems, we're the arbiters of taste, and we're the community supporting, and the financial institutes of Asian Americans and Asians abroad are not funding it, then
it has to keep going.
Because look where the Latinos are now as an entertainment community. They're behind us.
Right.
Because English-speaking Latinos did not create the universe that we need to create right now when we're hot.
Right.
Which the African American community did. Like, there's probably like three or four maybe African American films that may hit mainstream pop culture, but there's a dozen that are just dozen to 20 being made every year. And so it's that soil that creates the opportunity for Will Smith to come out.
Do you worry about some of the near Asian releases that are coming up after the Crazy Rich Asians fervor? Like,
we need more. The thing about it is we need to
I'm not saying worried about the quality. I'm talking about worried about the support.
No, we have to educate the audience, right? And again, it's something that the black community has done. I was hanging out years ago with some of my black actor friends, and they were like, yo, we're about to go out. And they're like, yo, we got to go buy tickets to that new Madea movie. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It's like Friday night, dog. Like, I ain't trying to watch.
But I'm
not even a big fan of Medea, and I don't want to go watch.
But you're saying you saw the support there.
No, they're like, it's opening weekend.
Oh, word. Okay, wow.
Word.
That's crazy.
Educated the community, which we were trying to educate the community now. Like, opening weekend counts. Like, that's the most important time for a film. The importance of what that is. You know what I'm saying?
They already knew.
Right.
They knew.
But we just have to produce more, like 10 times more. When I sit in production offices and I talk to executives, and especially Asian American executives, right?
Yeah.
And they go, why do we need this? Because I'm all about pushing a whole Asian media, right? And like, why do we need this? I'm like, why don't we just get the hot YouTubers and the hot guys and just make a movie? I'm like, it's not about one movie.
Yeah.
I said, why African Americans have scales? Because they've been creating product in this country for over 200 years. They were doing jazz and blues, which became rock and roll, right?
Yeah.
Rock and roll, like, they've been creating
Funk,
all that
soul,
stuff, funk, soul,
yeah.
everything, right? So that became hip hop in the 90s, right?
Right.
People are like, I was telling people, like, I'll talk at a college, an Asian American club. Usually a young guy will come up to me, Asian dude, be like, I want to be the first Asian Will Smith. And I'm like, yeah, that's what you should want to be. That's what it is. We all want to be that. That's what you should, that's what should drive you to go to Hollywood and create your career. But you got to understand that Will Smith at 17, DJ Jazzy Jeff Fresh Prince, was a bona fide star in all of America. Number one records, right?
Yeah.
Gold, platinum records. So much so, by the time he was like, during the record career, NBC and Quincy Jones created a show for him, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, where he was a star of. Did that for 8 years, star on an NBC program. And then after all that success, won the first ever Grammy. Grammy in the hip hop Grammy. Won the first hip hop Grammy.
That's crazy, yeah.
In the history.
Right.
Like, we're talking about Will Smith. I'm gonna be the first Will Smith. I'm like, do you see what this dude has done?
Yeah.
Then by the time he finished The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, all of a sudden someone said, well, let's put him in the star in an action film. You can't put a black guy as a star in an action film.
Right.
It's like, well, let's just do it. Independence Day.
Yeah.
Filipino producer Dean Devlin
That's crazy.
did it, right? And the rest is history. I'm like, okay, can you do all that? But let's not even go there yet. Let's go 200 years ago. African Americans started creating music.
Right.
Became jazz, blues.
There's more history to be written, you're saying.
It became rock and roll. By the time Will Smith came out, hip hop replaced rock and roll as pop music.
Yeah, the most influential genre, like, it just became.
So it's like, do you see what African Americans have done in just art in our country?
So you're saying we have so much more history to create, right? Is that in entertainment in particular?
For us to catch up, we need to be doing 10 to 100 times more product.
You're right.
And that includes film, music, dance.
Just be
art.
creative. Just make shit. Make a lot of shit.
Everybody, I just support everybody to make shit because at the end of the day, who's to say who's better than who?
Yeah, Dante Basco makes a lot of shit, man. I'm telling you right now.
And just saying, everybody needs to make shit, and we need to support each other.
And that's the thing. And honestly, that is real. You know, I rap, but I'm trying to write, act, everything, and just be creative. There's a lot of time that you can do it. It's not just one thing. You know what I'm saying? Like fill in that time.
Totally.
Yo, on that note, you got any projects coming out, bro?
Yeah, man.
I know you make a lot of shit. That's all I hear on the streets.
We make a lot of shit. We're doing a lot of stuff. I mean, I did get a book deal, so I'm in the middle of writing a book.
Ooh, have you done that before?
I never did that.
Wow.
It's harder than I thought.
Damn.
And I got the title. They're already sending me like artwork on the cover, and it's like.
Is it like a biographical thing?
Yeah,
or?
it's just autobiography from Rufio to Zuko. It's called From Rufio to Zuko.
Sick.
And then I have a bunch of films coming out. I just came back from the Philippines shooting a film with Chris Payne from Crazy Rich Asians, Osric Chow from Supernatural. We produced it together also, called Empty by Design. Drea Walters, a Filipino girl, first film, so that's really exciting. We have a few more films. The whole concept I'm trying to push forward. I was big on Asian American media, but as I've been traveling through Asia, it's really I'm calling it the new Asian media now, because the new Asian media is creating art, Asian art with no boundaries.
Right.
It's about us going there, them coming here, about this shared story, building bridges into Asia where the great art is at, great financial backing is at, here where great art is at. And so it's like this new Asian media. It's like post Crazy Rich Asians. And so there's so much going on in that realm, and being a part of that is crazy.
Yeah.
One thing, I mean, before we go talking about that really struck me, because I just spent a few months in the Philippines, is being ethnic in America is that there's like this self-hatred you have for yourself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you're like looking around at people, and you're just surrounded by Asians.
Right.
And Asians that sound like your grandparents, that you realize like you kind of shied away, hated. You'd make fun of those accents and those issues, cultures and whatnot, and you go,
we were painted into
and you're like, why do I not like that? Like, you're like, you know, I was also just spent 2 weeks in Europe with my brothers. Like, we've been jocking people even now in Hollywood, you come with an English accent.
Right.
You love it.
We always we say that it's sexy. We say it's like,
whatever. But, you know, different ethnic groups, whether it be Asian or African, it's like, even Mexican, all that, it's like, those are like fob ass things. I'm like, no, fob is a negative thing. It's not a negative thing anymore. Like, that's cool. I
feel you. I agree.
And trying to
program ourselves
where it's like we re-include ourselves in everything.
Yo, I feel that 100%.
It's been enlightening.
Man. That sounds like some enlightening shit right there. Yo, Dante Basco, always a freaking honor, man. Real shit,
it's
dude.
Good to see you.
I love you, bro, and I respect you so much, man.
Let's do a movie together.
Please, yo.
Let's go.
I've been waiting for someone like you to cast me. And not going. Go. You know, sometimes you go out for these roles. It's a fucking job, and I'm not gonna wait for the perfect role for me, dude. Like,
right.
I'm not gonna do that.
Just make stuff. You know what? Just make shit.
That's the slogan. Go out and make shit. Tune in next week. Fun with Dumb. Thank you. Peace.
Peace.